On today's show, the Atlanta Hawks are red hot, winning 5 straight games, including a come-from-behind victory in Milwaukee on this Wednesday evening. We'll get into all of what transpired, how it happened, and more coming up.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2184 of the Locked On Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you deep into the night here on a Wednesday evening into Thursday. And today's podcast is sponsored by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. And FanDuel is giving you away right now to get even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. And today, we'll be diving into what became a really impressive win on the road for the Hawks, 131-113 up in Milwaukee over the Bucks. This is the 5th win in a row for Atlanta, tying their longest winning streak of the entire season so far. They're now above 500 for the first time since mid-December. And beyond that obvious implication of this red-hot team right now, a big win in the standings for the Hawks, both in their own potential playoff pursuit and also to, quite frankly, keep the Bucks out of the playoffs for NBA draft reasons, given that the Hawks have a investment in Milwaukee's draft pick. So a multi-layered, almost a double win. I don't want to call it a full double win, but still close to that. And a very impressive and I would say, again, important win for the Hawks. And coming in, it was not exactly a breeze. Like in the first 4 games of this winning streak, I think it would be fair to say the Hawks were comfortably favored in all 4 games. Now, they still have to win them. Nothing's guaranteed in the NBA, but they were, quote unquote, supposed to win those 4 games. This was their hardest game in about 2 weeks on paper, having to go on the road against not a great team, but certainly a more competent one than some. And Giannis is back from Milwaukee. Both teams were missing a key piece or two. The Hawks were without Jonathan Kuminga in this game, hopefully for only a 1-game sample size. He missed this game with a left knee inflammation after not being on the injury report on Wednesday night, and then actually on Tuesday night, I should say, and then being added as questionable midday and then being ruled out. He was with the team in Milwaukee. Same knee, by the way, that ruled him out for a little while, both before and after the trade with Golden State. So that's something to keep an eye on, but no further update. So everyone asking, I totally understand why. He did not play in this game. And the Bucks were without Kevin Porter Jr. and Taurean Prince. But regardless, relatively level playing field despite being on the road. And the Hawks were down by 16 points. I don't want to bury the lead too much, but the Hawks were down by 16 points in the first half of this game. And in the NBA, that's not a huge deficit in the first half by any means. Like, these things go quickly with the way the game is played at this point with 3-pointers and tempo and all that stuff. But Atlanta had a 60-31 extended run over about a 19-minute period to go from down by 16 to being up by 13. And that was basically what flipped the game in the Hawks' favor. They led for the last 21 minutes consecutively at the end of this game, and then also ran it up to as many as 23 points before being having kind of the final margin of 18. So basically from the middle of the second quarter on, it was basically a domination for the Hawks. They won the last 2.5, 3 quarters of this game by 30-plus points on the road against a decent opponent. That's nothing to sneeze at, even after kind of a slow start. For me, as far as takeaways, again, the most important thing is the importance of the win and the impact on the standings and the races. But on the court, the Hawks had a really lights-out offensive game. This is a comprehensive offensive performance for this team, and it's fair to say this year the offense, and it makes sense when you factor in, no Trae Young for most of the year, Porzingis, all that stuff, a reevaluation of a team, a overhaul of a team. Offense has not exactly been lights out all year long, but in this game, they were tremendous. Had an offensive rating about 130, which is awesome in any context. One of their best offensive games of the season by the numbers, and eye test matches that. Milwaukee is not a great defensive team. They were 24th in the league coming in defensive rating, and that got worse, but that's a credit to the Hawks, who were, even when they were struggling early in this game, they actually were putting up points. It was the defense that kind of flipped things later on, but they shot really well all the way around this game. Basically, they were 44% from 3 in this one, 20 of 45 from deep, one of their best 6-7 performances of the season from 3-point range. They were good inside the arc as well, 54% from the field in the game. They had 33 assists, 11 turnovers. Exactly what the Hawks want to play. They want to be balanced. They want to be unselfish. They want to move the ball quickly. All of that was on display here. Speaking of balance, they had 4 guys with at least 18 points or more, 6 guys with double figures, and 9 players had at least 7 points in this game, pretty much the definition of how a balanced offense is supposed to look. And they were able to score in the half court the entire game. Now, the Hawks have been, I would say reliant is probably a little bit too strong, but they've certainly been buoyed by their ability to run when they force turnovers defensively and fast break and all that stuff. That makes sense for a young athletic team, but the Hawks have had some trouble scoring when things slow down, which means half court against a set defense this year. No such trouble in this game. They had about a 121 offensive rating in the half court, according to Cleaning the Glass. That is an elite factor, and basically the Hawks were able to score whenever, wherever against this Milwaukee team, and that was a nice establishing baseline on this night. Now, on defense, it was totally a roller coaster, I have to say. They ended up at the end of the game with like a relatively average overall production of, on defense by the numbers, I would say. But the Bucks shot almost 70% inside the arc in this game. Part of that's Giannis being Giannis. But the Hawks did fairly well elsewhere overall. They forced 15 turnovers, led to 26 points. That's a Hawks staple this season. Actually rebounded the ball fairly well by their standards. They limited free throw attempts, only 20 allowed in this game. All of those are pretty solid boxes to check. But the big takeaway that I would have from the defense was that it was truly a tale of two halves in a lot of ways. That gets overused because it's a trope, but it also makes sense and it's true in this case. In the first half, the Hawks were down by 5 points at halftime. They allowed 71 points on 62% shooting for Milwaukee from the field in the first half with 11 three-pointers. They had about an offensive rating of like 150 before halftime. It was kind of amazing the Hawks were in the game, given how bad they defended in the first half. But in the second half, their defensive rating was actually less than 90. It was elite after halftime. The Bucks slowed down all the way across the board, including 2 of 20 from 3 for Milwaukee in the second half. And look, the Bucks went cold from 3. That is part of what happened here for sure. In the NBA, it's never just one thing. But to be very clear, defensively on film, after watching the game again, as I always do before recording the podcast, by the numbers, eye test, film, breakdowns, all that wrapped into one, defensively, the Hawks were so much better in the second half of this game. It was night and day. And a lot of attention is being paid, I think rightly so, to the Hawks changing their coverage on Giannis. Early in the game, Giannis was able to kind of get where he wanted to. And I will say this, Giannis was playing at a energy level that he's not really had for a lot of the season. And he's been out for a while. And he looked to be really kind of, putting it in the red, like flying around early in this game. That was part of it. But the Hawks changed their coverage and put Dyson on him. And Dyson, of course, is a guard for the most part, playing the 3 at the starting lineup sometimes. But one of his strengths is that he is so strong, like a fire hydrant strong, and he's a lot bigger than a lot of guards. And he's able to be that kind of utility player defensively to be able to hold up on Giannis. And it wasn't only him. They were doubling him some for sure. But that change helped to facilitate down the rest of the defense. I thought the rest of the defense was much better as well. Dyson was frankly brilliant on defense in this game. But Overgrass played well as well. I think Congo had a good game after the first quarter or so. Nikhil was great defensively. I thought McCollum played well defensively by his standards. Ricochet was flying around on the second unit. Mo Gay did his job, etc. So a lot of positives defensively after the slow start. And it wasn't quite the type of defensive effort that the Hawks had in their first 4 games of the winning streak. They were playing against bad teams, quite frankly, at least 3 bad teams, and then like a so-so team who was hurt in Portland. They had a 97 defensive rating in those 4 games. That was not this. In this game, the offense led the way. That's why I wanted to open with that to say, even when the Hawks were not defending, their scoring kept them in the game in the first half. But then what flipped the game was the defense really turning things on, and an impressive overall performance from the defense for the last 2.5 quarters or so, which was massive. So look, I don't want to overstate it. It's a game in March. Milwaukee's not a great basketball team, but this is their best opponent that the Hawks have played in 2 weeks, and they beat them soundly in this spot, even with Giannis playing. And that's a nice step in the right direction. I know if you're listening to the podcast regularly, you will know that I've been a broken record on this for a while. This is the easy stretch of the season for the Hawks on paper, and that does not guarantee anything. But what really is encouraging to me is that the Hawks are taking full advantage, maximizing this stretch, winning 5 games in a row, winning 6 of the last 7. That's what they were supposed to do in some ways, or kind of what they needed to do in some ways. But it's never a given. And the Hawks are now, again, over 500 for the first time in a long time, and going back home from here for 5 more at home. So a chance to really run things up if they can kind of continue playing at this level. Hopefully Kuminga is back and healthy by the next game on Saturday. But in the meantime, a great win on the road for the Hawks and a red-hot basketball team as March continues. Okay, in a second, I'll dive into how this game unfolded, plus at the end of the podcast, my player evaluations. It's all coming up in just one moment. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. It's all there with college hoops. And from early tip-offs to late night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board this time of year. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into bigger potential payouts with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college parlay that you actually want to, from rivalry games to ranked matchups, whatever fits what you're looking for on any particular night. You can mix point spreads, totals, player props together to match exactly how you see the slate playing out. And then you can apply a profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. And of course, FanDuel has all the offerings that you want to across the sports betting landscape. They have all that you need at the NBA, which we talk about all the time on this podcast. Plus, FanDuel has baseball, they have football, they have hockey, golf, tennis, soccer, auto racing, boxing, MMA, and so much more. Go safe, go bold, right with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it at FanDuel. And the place to go is FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today and making us your first listen here at Locked On Hawks each and every day. If you ever want to go ad-free or get some more perks, you can join the Everydayer Club right now by visiting lockedonhawks.supercast.com. As I alluded to earlier, the offense was basically locked in early and often. They scored 18 points in the first 6 minutes. That production did kind of slow down. If there was one hiccup offensively, it was kind of the late portion of the first quarter, early second quarter, as the lead grew from Milwaukee. But from the outset, they had trouble dealing with Giannis, and also Ousmane Dieng had an out-of-body experience in the first quarter. Dieng made his first 5 shots and then finished the game 6 of 14. So do the math on that. He missed 8 of his last 9 shots. But Giannis was, I would say, dominant early on. Dieng made his, again, first 4 shots, was red hot in this game. Milwaukee had a 12-2 run in the first quarter. The Hawks did by 12. And then it was 13 at the end of the first quarter. The Bucks shot 73% from the field and hit 6 threes in the first quarter. That kind of says it all. I don't think it was quite as bad as that was execution-wise. In real time, I had that same thought. I said it on Twitter. Having watched it back now, the Hawks, look, to be very clear, the Hawks were not good at all defensively, but the Bucks also made some shots that you wouldn't expect. So I think a little bit more reasonable output would have been like in line, I would say. But still a lot of breakdowns, a lot of disorganization from the Hawks defense in the first quarter, and the Bucks took advantage of that by making a lot of shots. Rotation-wise, no huge surprises. Again, with Kuminga out, it was Ricochet as the first sub. He played well in this game, I thought, pretty clearly. Gabe Vincent played only one stint, and it was in the first half. It was 5 minutes, and then he never came back in the rest of the game, which was notable. And then Mo Gay, Jock Landale, and Corey Kispert. Basically, the first half was the same 10-man group that they've been playing pre-Kuminga, and now they're going back to that. We'll see if Vincent disappears, because, again, he only played one stint in this game. But everybody else, Landale and Gay were in their normal roles. Kispert played probably a little bit more than he would have normally, but actually played well, I thought, for him in this game. So no huge surprises there. A bench-heavy unit helped the Hawks get back into the game early on in the second quarter. Ricochet had a 3 to force a timeout early in the second quarter. They created some turnovers finally after not getting too much havoc going in the first quarter. It became an 18-4 overall run to go from down 16 down to only 2. It was kind of short-lived, but when Giannis came back in, they were throwing the kitchen sink at him, basically. Okongwu, I will say, normally does really well on Giannis, even dating back to the playoffs in 2021. Like when Okongwu was a rookie, he was actually very useful there. He's been one of the better guys on Giannis in the league, especially when you adjust for like expectations. But in this game, it was not working early on, and they went to Dyson. That worked much better, and they brought a lot of extra bodies. Like they were more attentive to him, and also, I mentioned before, but Giannis was pretty energetic. And I will also give a shout out to Cam Thomas, who had this stretch in the second half where he just decided to shoot the ball every time, which is very Cam Thomas. He does not really pass the basketball very often, but it was like striking how heavy Cam Thomas it was, which is probably helpful to the Hawks defense. But the Hawks were down by 16, as many as 16 early on. And when Dyson got his putback to tie the game late in the first half, it was like, oh, they're in a good spot here. Now, they were still down 5 at halftime. It was an offensive barrage from the Hawks in the first half, but the game really turned. A lot of the work that happened to cut the deficit, did happen before halftime. That was it's not a small thing. To go from down by 16 to getting it down to like a tie game and then 5 at halftime was a meaningful part of the comeback. But then the game really flipped in the third quarter. A 23-5 run for the Hawks to open the second half to go from down 5 at halftime to up 13 and they never trailed again. And it wasn't as if the Hawks were like playing incredible offense. They were playing fine, but they actually didn't shoot it lights out. Jalen Johnson did not have a point or an assist in the entire third quarter, which is shocking with the Hawks the way they played in that quarter. Jalen just wasn't a huge factor in that. But the Bucks didn't score for about 4 minutes, and they had 2 points in the first 6 minutes. Milwaukee did miss their first 9 threes of the half, but the Hawks were flying around defensively. They were executing the plan much better that they were using late in the first half. Multiple efforts, like really flying around and using a lot of energy that was not present in that first quarter. Dyson was the catalyst for that, but I thought Nikhil was great. Jalen was much better in the second half defensively than he was in the first half. Ricochet was awesome too, off the bench, et cetera, et cetera. I gave a stat earlier, but a 60-31 run. That would basically end the game in a lot of ways. And the Hawks did win the third quarter by 14 points while making 8 threes. And look, that's part of this too. Like anytime you have this kind of a massive swing in a game, there's usually a little bit of shooting luck at least. And this game, it was the Hawks making their threes. They made 8 in the third quarter, and the Bucks missing their threes. And the Hawks still outplayed the Bucks soundly. Probably not by 35 points in like 2.5 quarters margins, but they were the better team, even if it was magnified by the shooting. The bench unit did a decent job holding the lead where it was early fourth quarter. They brought the starters back in after the lead was down to 7. It was Jalen, Nikhil, and Dyson back in the game right away. And it was an 8-1 run from there. It was a huge stretch. Nikhil had an absolutely monstrous left-handed dunk on Jericho Sims that brought the house down, probably the highlight of the night on from a SportsCenter standpoint. And then a mini drought kind of slowed down there on offense, but they got stops. And then they had 3 straight buckets in a row to go by 14. That didn't end the game, but it was like, okay, the Hawks are now firmly in control of the game. Milwaukee got it down to 11 or 12 again. And then Dyson Daniels, I think fittingly, had a personal 6-0 run to all but end the game, putting the Hawks up by 18 with like 4 minutes to go. At that point, it's like, all right, just avoid a total meltdown and you're going to win the game. And the Hawks were able to do that with relative ease. They got into an 18-point final margin. My only bit of amusement, and I'm sure that fans of the podcast will know where I'm going, I couldn't help but laugh. The Hawks went up by 21 points into a timeout with like 2 minutes. I'll give you the exact number. With 2:15 to go or so. No, sorry, 2:27 to go was the number. Up 21, and the Hawks came out of the timeout with all the starters in the game. They didn't take anybody out. And that was just so funny to me. Like I literally tweeted, okay, this game's over, pull everybody. And they had the starters in. Now, they did come out a second after that, but I thought it was hilarious. It was very on brand for Quinn and the staff to be a little bit overly conservative to not avoid the meltdown. But regardless, a solid win. And just to give one more number, the Hawks won the last 3 quarters of this game by 31 points in 3 quarters. Overall, if you go from the lowest point of the game, where the Hawks were down by 16 points, they won the rest of the game by 34. Pretty outstanding stuff from a Hawks team that has been not that impressive on the whole this season, but a lot of good signs lately. And if you want to get better at the right time, it's probably a good time to go ahead and do that as the playoffs are starting to come into view just about 5-6 weeks from now at the end of this season. So I'll leave it there, but one more time, just a tremendous performance and a good road win. Nothing's ever assured, and the Hawks have been stacking wins, and that was what they had to do right now, and they are above 500 for the first time in a long time. Okay, in a second, I'll dive into the individual player stuff in this game. I would say headlined by Dyson Daniels, and it's coming up in just one moment. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every single aspect of the draft. We'll let you know which tasty flavors are going to be actually the best, and what might be some sleepers along the way as well. 5-Hour Energy. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and there's only one that will take the top spot for me. At 5-Hour Energy, they have a wide variety of flavors. That means it's something for absolutely everyone. And I'm a big fan of the Boost with 5-Hour Energy shots that I really also have 0 sugar. I'm a huge fan of that as well. And plus, they have a lot of flavor innovations planned in the future. Let your mind run wild with combinations. I might come up with some of those in the near future as well, but there's also a ton of awesome options already at 5-Hour Energy. My personal favorite flavor, number 1 overall pick, is the Peach Mango. It tastes amazing. It has real balance. And of course, has that pick-me-up that I actually really need. Not the only one that I like, though. They have strawberry banana. I like that one quite a bit. It's like a smoothie taste that I enjoy. Plus the classic cherry flavor. It's bold, clean finish, etc. And you cannot go wrong with any flavor of 5-Hour Energy. My picks are available, as I just said, but plus they also have cotton candy, for example, and grape, confetti crazy, fruity rainbow, berry, Hawaiian breeze, sour apple, tropical burst, and so many more. Find your new flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots right now. It's available online at 5hourenergy.com. That's 5hourenergy.com, or you can find it on Amazon. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, and inbox overflowing, and one position you actually need to find somebody to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on, you actually need the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs can help you look which people you're actually looking for, what actually are going to fit with you as well when it comes to skills or experience or location. So they're not just hoping you find the right person by accident, by stumbling across your post. Instead, there's a stat that says it all for you. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, don't waste your time with searches and searches and searches. Actually use your time interviewing candidates to check all the boxes that you want with Indeed sponsored jobs. That brings less stress, less time wasted, and many more results. You need actually need the right person to cut through all the noise and the chaos. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners to this podcast, we got a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, as a reminder that I said earlier, quickly, Jonathan Kuminga did not play in this game. Again, no further update other than he just missed this one. It was a late scratch of sorts. He was on the bench. Knee inflammation. So anytime it's the same knee, it's a little bit concerning, but the Hawks don't play again until Saturday. So hopefully they'll get some more answers on that. And if nothing else, they have to provide an injury report on Friday evening for the game on Saturday. With Kuminga out, the rest of the rotation, a lot of positives, as you might expect, and a blowout win. Only garbage time for Keaton Wallace, Caleb Houston, and Christian Koloko. So it was really a 10-man rotation and really 9.5 because Gabe Vincent only played in the first half. 5 minutes for Gabe, missed both of his shots. I don't think he played that badly, just didn't go very well, and they went to another look after that. Mo Gay, 14 minutes, actually hit 2 big threes in this game, had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and was +2. I thought Mo played very well off the bench. Those 2 big threes were notable and important. Jock Landale, 16 minutes, 8 points, 3 assists for Jock, had a rebound, was +1, hit 2 threes himself. The Hawks shot great in this game, and helps when your bigs make shots, but they were both very effective, I thought. Corey Kispert, 7 points, 7 assists for Corey Kispert. That's not the usual for him. I'm checking now, actually, to see if that was a career high, because that's quite a bit of assists for Corey. It was not a career high, but it was his most assists since the 23-24 season. So Kispert's only had that many assists in a game, I think, once or twice in his career. So notable there. Didn't shoot it great, 1 of 5 from 3, but made both of his 2s. I thought Corey played good defense by his standards. Obviously, he's always going to get targeted, but I thought he was better than usual there and was +21 in 20 minutes off the bench. Zachary Richache, I thought was really good, actually, in this one. Hit 12 points, hit 4 threes, 5 rebounds. I thought he was excellent defensively. Truly, he's been much better on defense lately, and I thought that was carrying over here. It was noted by, I know Bob and Nick were talking about that as well. I think it was available on the film. Even nationally, it's he's been good defensively for a while. Rangy, offensively, you kind of had to make the 4 threes, but that was it. And I thought he played well. So that was nice to see him kind of coming out of it, hopefully, if you are a Hawks fan here in early March. And to the starters, a lot of good here. All 5 starters had 14 points or more. McCollum, 18 points, 8 assists. He was 3 of 4 on 2s, 2 of 7 from 3, which is not great. Got to the line 6 times, made all 6. I thought he defended pretty solidly. And CJ's been good for the Hawks. I know there was a 3 or 4 game, maybe 5, when he first arrived, where he was kind of shaky. And I think since then, he's been clearly playing well, has great plus-minus numbers, etc. And that 5-man unit that everyone keeps talking about, the starters for the Hawks, they continue to just be tremendous by the numbers. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but Quinn's kind of noticed many times before, but it's a lineup that just keeps on working. And in this game, the starters had a net rating of +25 per 100 possessions. It's just every game, it seems like the Hawks just won with the starters, and there's that. Nikhil, 23 points, hit 5 threes, 4 or 5 on 2s as well. Did have 3 turnovers. That was not that damaging. +19 in the game. Made shots, a couple of big, tough shots too on the move for Nikhil. I thought he was under control, played good defense along the way. Milwaukee's guards were really never comfortable. AJ Green had a kind of middling game. Ryan Rollins had 12 assists, but that was kind of it for him. He didn't shoot it well in this game. So I think credit to Nikhil, Dyson, etc. for flying around on the perimeter. Okongwu, 21 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals and 2 blocks. So 5 stocks for him. 6 of 7 on twos, 3 of 7 on threes. Like I said before, kind of a slow start for him against Giannis, but once they kind of settled in a little bit, he was much better. And Okongwu's been very productive of late. He had the huge game against Portland where he hit 7 threes, but I think he scored in double figures. I think it's like, 10 of the last 11 games, something like that. He's been very productive of late. And after 25 points in that Portland game, he was the leading scorer. Not always, for a while today, he was the leading scorer. Didn't finish that way with actually Nikhil at 23, but 21 for Onyeka. And very efficient, very productive. And I gave a stat today on Twitter. Okongwu is second among all NBA centers and three-pointers made this year. That is a crazy development arc based on where he was only a couple years ago. And that's been fun to watch. He also has more threes this year than Karl-Anthony Towns, which is not what you expect for because Towns is like the best shooting center maybe ever. And Okongwu on his heels right now, at least for this season. Jalen Johnson, 20 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 turnovers, 2 steals. It was so funny. And funny is maybe the wrong word, but Jalen was like pretty unimpressive offensively for a large portion of this game, and the Hawks were still flowing anyway. He didn't have a point or an assist in the third quarter, kind of inching along a little bit. But he had a couple of nice spurts, one late in the first half, one in the fourth quarter to kind of put the game away. And I think defensively it was, in the first half, honestly, it was frustrating. There was some clips making the rounds. Like he was pretty bad defensively in the first half, but he kind of figured it out, got more locked in, and was better from that point forward. But it was not a great Jalen game, and we're still able to blow a team out, which is encouraging across the board. And part of that was that I thought Dyson Daniels was the best player on the floor for the Hawks. I mean, Giannis played, and Giannis is Giannis, so I won't say maybe that Dyson was the best player in the whole game, but he was the Hawks' best player. 14 points, 10 rebounds, which is the second most he's had in a game this season. 3 assists, no turnovers, had 3 blocked shots, was plus 21 in the game. He guarded Giannis at an elite level. He was efficient around the rim. Giannis is a tough cover, and Dyson being able to do that as a guard, he's just so good defensively. And I know I've been saying this for a while, but the idea that Dyson's just like not playing well is just insane. I understand he's not shooting well at all. Like it is a challenge for sure. I'm not shying away from that whatsoever. But there is more to life than three-point shooting. And Dyson's been so good essentially everywhere else this season. Career highs like across the board and basically everything other than three-point shooting. He's shooting a career best on twos, 56% on twos this season as a guard. That's very hard to do. That's like an elite figure on two-point shooting, averaging 6.5 rebounds and like 6.5 assists per game. Not an easy thing to do. Still, I think top 5 in the league in steals. I know he's not number 1 in the league in steals like he was last year. I get it. But like he's still a elite defensive player, night in, night out, all that stuff. So he was awesome in this game. And by the way, during the 5-game winning streak, this is maybe the craziest stat of all. 5 games, 36 assists, and 2 turnovers. 36 assists and 2 turnovers in 5 games. Yeah, it's going pretty well for Dyson. He's been playing great. And he was, for me, the best player in this game. And I thought it was nice to see him get some shine for the way that he was able to guard Giannis down the stretch. A quick standings check. I've not done a ton of these this year, but I think as the season gets closer to winding down, and this is also a massive win for multiple reasons, so I want to say that out loud. In the preview that I did last night on the show, I did note this, but because the Hawks did win, they're now 5 games ahead of Milwaukee in the standings, and Milwaukee is really the only team that has a chance even to challenge them at the end of the play-in, because Chicago is only a game and a half behind Milwaukee, but Chicago's lost like 12 or 13 or something. They're going the wrong way. So I think the Hawks are not a total lock to make the play-in, but I think very, very, very likely. Like I wouldn't say a lock because it's too early for that, but this is a big result for that. Up 5 with like 19 to play. That seems safer. And because of what I said earlier, I'll just reiterate that now. The Hawks do want and have wanted the entire time Milwaukee to miss the playoffs. Now, they're incentives are aligned because the Hawks also want to make the playoffs. But Milwaukee missing just adds more ping pong balls to their own draft situation. So it's a dual result there that was a positive one for the Hawks. Also, the Hawks kept pace with Charlotte. Charlotte's been playing great recently, and they're now tied in the standings for 9th in the East. In fact, the 2 longest winning streaks in the NBA as of right this second are Charlotte at 6 and Atlanta at 5. And they are tied in the standings, division rivals. The I-85 corridor is popping right now in NBA basketball, so that's actually pretty crazy. But yeah, 2 active winning streaks, and they're now tied for the 9th spot. But crucially, The Hawks are only a game and a half behind Orlando and Miami. They're only 2.5 behind Philly. And Philly is the 6th seed right now. They're only 4 behind Toronto, which is the 5 seed. Now, that's obviously lofty. There are teams in front of them. But if the Hawks can kind of stack some more wins, the 6 seed pursuit is not likely by any means, but it's possible. It's not crazy to say that the Hawks have a chance to at least get, for me, I think more practically, if you get in that 7-8 game, instead of having to be in the 9-10 for the play-in, that's much, much better because you only have to win one versus having to win twice. But there you go. A nice little stretch in the standings for the vibes, for the draft, all of it and wrapped into one. And keeping Milwaukee out of the playoffs is a good thing for the Hawks. From here, the Hawks have 2 more days off. I've been doing this on every show almost, but the Hawks have a very, very favorable schedule right now. Part of that is they have so many extra days off to rest and recuperate and travel. And they come home for a 5-game homestand again. So they just played 5 games at home. They went on the road for 1. Late game, national TV, I get all that. But then they have 5 more at home. And this run is not quite as favorable as the last one when they got the pleasure of playing Washington twice and Brooklyn and a banged-up Portland team. But they do get Philadelphia on Saturday, which is a tough matchup in some ways. But Philadelphia is actually 0-3 against the Hawks this year, which is notable. Then it's Dallas, who is not great. Then it's Brooklyn, who is tanking. Then it's Milwaukee again at home. Then it's Orlando, and Orlando's not playing great either. So nothing that's like terribly daunting on paper over the next 5. If you were a betting man, you wouldn't say the Hawks are going to probably win 5 in a row to go to a 10-game winning streak, but they do have the opportunity to get some more wins here. If you simulated the next 5 games, they probably go 3-2, 4-1 a lot of the time. So keep that in mind. Last thing before we get out of here, as a PSA, I have to travel a little bit this weekend for my day job, so I probably will not have a new episode until the game on Saturday. That's part of why I did an extra show with Ben Pfeiffer. That was a 2-parter earlier this week to give you guys some extra content. If you missed that, by the way, it's an NBA draft-focused 2-part conversation, so that's still relevant right now. Derek Peterson, AJ Devonta, Cameron Boozer, et cetera, et cetera. That was a fun chat with Ben, plus a show yesterday, and full game breakdowns as always. So please stay tuned. I will have a show at some point Saturday night. It might be later than I would like it to be, but that's the nature of my day job still existing. So stay tuned for that. Please subscribe to this podcast, Locked On Hawks, anywhere you find your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Tell your friends about the podcast as well. Follow the show on Twitter/X at Locked On Hawks. Follow me there at BT Rowland. Follow me on Blue Sky at BT Rowland, and also follow my non-podcast coverage of the Hawks, which can be found at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, everybody, that's all I have this evening. Enjoy this victory if you're a Hawks fan. Enjoy your Thursday into Friday, and we'll see you at the very latest after the game on Saturday night.